Her name was Lisa Beacon. Out of all of us, she deserved to suffer the least. She was always nice to Jeff, always the first to speak up when we took the teasing too far, always the quickest to defend him, and never joined in when we picked on him. But she was the first one he hurt. He didn't just kill her. He left her morally wounded and disfigured. She was in the hospital's intensive care unit for 2 weeks before succumbing to her injuries. In the interim between her admission and her death, Lisa had spoken with a detective from the police department. Despite the ghastly disfigurement she was suffering from, she was somehow able to speak perfectly and recount every detail of her story vividly. She was at a party at a friend's house and had stayed too long. It was about 4 a.m. and the whole neighborhood was dark. Even with every streetlight on, you could barely see a few feet ahead. The first warning sign she received was the sound of a knife scraping against glass. The horrible creaking sound echoed throughout the block. It would stop completely and start up again, even changing directions a few times. Sometimes it'd be frantic and rapid, and other times it'd be slow and painful. She was the only one there, all alone. She looked around, but she couldn't find anyone. Lisa made the unfortunate mistake of following the sound, and that's how she met her undoing. She followed the noise all the way to a dark room of the house. The awful scraping sound belonged to a blade being lazily dragged across a dirty window. That's when she saw Jeff, standing in a corner with that huge knife in his hand. They locked eyes for a brief moment. She barely recognized him. She'd never seen him down there in the pit. She didn't even know what happened that day.
Did Jeff?
He immediately snarled and ran at her, knife in hand. He bared his teeth at her, as his eyes expressed a kind of hatred she'd never seen before in her life. Her better instincts kicked in, and she ran out of the house as fast as she could. Have you ever had one of those nightmares where you're being chased by someone and you can't bring yourself to run? Like you're trapped in molasses and you can't get away? It doesn't work that way in real life. You run like a wild animal. Your body starts pumping adrenaline into all of your veins, and you move faster than you ever have before. But it didn't matter. None of it mattered. He was still faster than her. She never felt the knife enter her side, but the trauma of the wound caused her to fall on the pavement. Laying right under a streetlight, bleeding into the gutter, she began to cough as her mouth filled up with her own blood. Jeff was looming over her, gripping the knife so tightly in his hand, she swore he could have snapped the handle in two. Tears ran down her face as she screamed so loud she felt like her vocal cords were about to rip apart. She called for help, for anyone at all, but nobody ever came. Not a single person heard her. The entire block was deserted. Everyone was either long gone, sound asleep, or too busy to care. He stepped on her chest, causing her to spit out even more blood. She looked up at him, and she pleaded to him for some kind of mercy. She begged him to tell her why, to give her some kind of explanation. He leaned in close to her, and he whispered,
"You don't deserve one."